Welcome to this Code Ninja Security Advisory. I'm your host, and today we're tracking a massive, highly critical zero-day threat aimed right at the core of the Apple ecosystem. Look, if you're operating unpatched devices running macOS, iOS, iPadOS, or even visionOS, your perimeter is completely exposed right now to a severe memory safety flaw. Consider this explainer your official coordinated vulnerability disclosure briefing. Our primary objective today? To hand you the exact technical intel you need to force an immediate vendor patch on your end and lock down your networks. To really grasp the severity of this advisory, you've got to understand the stakes. We're looking at a maximum severity CVSS version 3.1 base score of 9.8 out of 10. That's about as bad as it gets. CISA has flat out classified this as a critical threat. Why? Because we're dealing with a zero-interaction remote heap corruption vulnerability. Attackers don't need your system credentials. They don't even need you to click a malicious link to compromise your endpoint. This threat is active, and the technical impact is total. Okay, let's dive into this timeline to see exactly how incredibly fast this threat profile developed. On July 27th, Apple, acting as the CVE numbering authority, officially published CVE-2026-64770, dropping 6 separate security support release notes. Literally the very next morning, on July 28th, CISA's authorized data publisher modified the record to formally reflect its critical nature and attack vectors. Meanwhile, the National Vulnerability Database finalized their initial analysis and mapped the affected platforms. This rapid, coordinated vulnerability disclosure timeline is exactly why we're broadcasting this intel right now. The window between disclosure and automated exploitation is shrinking fast, and we need to force a patch on your end, immediately. But before we unpack the specific technical mechanics of the blast radius, let's pause for a quick comms check. Are you receiving this intelligence clearly? Because in the security research community, situational awareness is absolutely your first line of defense. To maintain an active, secure communication link for future zero-day threats, make sure you hit subscribe to @CyberTech79 and enable those notifications. Seriously, consider it a strict security necessity for real-time intelligence. And hey, if you're receiving this advisory loud and clear right now, drop a like below as a formal ACK, an acknowledgement of receipt for this intel. All right, our link is secured. Let's move into Phase 3 of our briefing. Part 1. The Protocol. Defining the blast radius. We're dealing with an out-of-bounds write, officially categorized as CWE-787. At its core, this is a fundamental memory safety breakdown. Basically, there's a critical failure in proper bounds validation when the operating system handles certain data structures. So the crucial point is that insufficient input length checks allow a malicious actor to write data way outside the intended memory allocation boundaries. When a remote attacker sends a maliciously crafted network payload, they completely bypass these checks. This leads directly to heap corruption or unexpected application termination, opening direct pathways for remote code execution in an elevated security context. Not good. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer exploitability of this flaw, as broken down by the CVSS metrics. The attack vector is network accessible. That means this is an entirely remote threat. No physical or local access to the device is required. The attack complexity? Low, meaning no specialized condition checks are needed to execute the exploit. Privileges required? None. Unauthenticated access is literally all it takes. And perhaps most dangerously, user interaction is absolutely zero. Exploitation requires zero involvement from the target user. To top it off, the Stakeholder-Specific Vulnerability Categorization, or SSVC, has marked this threat as automatable, carrying a total technical impact. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive scope of the affected platform inventory. Take a hard look at your environment right now so you can immediately audit your devices. If you are running iOS or iPadOS strictly prior to version 26.6, you are vulnerable. For the Mac fleets out there, macOS Tahoe versions prior to 26.6, macOS Sequoia prior to 15.7.8, and macOS Sonoma prior to 14.8.8 are all at risk. Even peripheral endpoints, like Apple TVs and Vision Pro headsets running tvOS and visionOS prior to version 26.6 are right in the crosshairs. If your device firmware falls in those ranges, your endpoint is currently exposed. Part 2. The Protocol. Deploy the patch. Let's move to the required mitigation steps and see how this builds our baseline defense.
Step 1 is absolute and non-negotiable. Deploy software updates immediately across all Apple devices in your fleet. You've got to verify that your systems are updated to iOS 26.6, macOS Tahoe 26.6, Sequoia 15.7.8, or Sonoma 14.8.8. Apple has addressed the severe vulnerability in these newer releases by introducing much improved bounds checking routines in their system frameworks, effectively closing that CWE-787 loophole. Now, step 2 is vital, especially for enterprise environments and security operation centers. Implement rigorous network perimeter monitoring. Until every single device is confirmed patched, you must actively monitor your endpoints for abnormal application crashes or heap corruption events, especially on devices communicating across external network boundaries. As white hat security researchers, we practice coordinated vulnerability disclosure for a very simple, practical reason. Users need to know what is happening under the hood to protect their systems. When a flaw carries a total technical impact and allows remote code execution without any user interaction, well, total transparency isn't just a best practice, it is an absolute, fundamental requirement to secure the global perimeter against adversaries. We've laid out the threat intelligence, the vendor has officially provided the patch through their security advisories. Now, the responsibility is entirely on you to deploy these updates before automated exploit campaigns inevitably scale up in the wild. I'm going to leave you with this final, critical thought to evaluate your current operational readiness. With vulnerabilities moving from disclosure to weaponization faster than ever, is your perimeter truly patched right now, or are you already compromised? Stay secure.